Alright, so I started working on this tin set last night. So what it had was some of this metal here. It was actually pitted from rust. So I ended up putting some of this 3M Bondo on it. Also, like some areas, like, let's see, like right here, these areas right here, a couple of these holes and whatnot were like pulled out a little bit. So I used a body hammer with a block for backing, straighten them out a little bit. And then also we had up here, there was one little dent, so I filled it in with some Bondo. We're gonna go ahead and sand all this down, get it nice and smooth and ready for primer. So before I put this filler down last night, I used some 80 grit sandpaper and I sanded down the areas where it's going to be putting the body filler. This is so that the body filler will have something to adhere to. I think now I'm just going to use the 220 to sand down these areas, make them nice and smooth before I go ahead and put the primer on. Alright, so now we're done with this rear fender. I got this all nice and smooth and we're ready to be primered. We're gonna now work on this here. So what I'm gonna do is use some 80 grit sandpaper and take down the majority of this, all this high stuff. Got a lot on there. So I'm gonna take down the majority of it, get it nice and more flat, and then I'm gonna use my 220 and sand this, get this nice and flat, and then sand all this down. See, I got this is all raised. Get this nice and flat, 220, so that when I do the primer, it's just nice and flat. Okay, so I put another layer of this Bondo on because there's a little hole. There's a low spot after I sanded it down, so I'll put another layer on and then sand this down and see if we need to add another one or if we'll be good. As I got all my pieces all sanded down, ready for primer, I'm gonna go ahead and tape these off, the parts I don't want painted, such as this, the fuel gauge, gas cap, petcock on the bottom, any kind of wires we got there. I got everything taped off, all sanded down, ready for primer. Got my tabletop, put some paper on it, keep it nice and clean. We can go ahead and start spraying this primer.